Anxiety is one of the major cornerstones of psychiatric mental health nursing. In your words, what is anxiety? Mariah, what is anxiety? Your words. Wrong. In your words, what is anxiety?
Just like stressing about nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Or it could be
making something small, something like really big.
And kind of little real mountains on molehills or whatever. Molehills. All right. In your words, Erin, what is anxiety?
A feeling of being very overwhelmed. Sometimes you can't control it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So it can feel overwhelming, or if it gets out of control. How about low-level anxiety? Yeah, so it can be a good thing. Yeah. So just in general, kind of the feeling like maybe you're making something bigger than it really is, or feeling overwhelmed, those would be the more extreme kinds of being very aware that really feeling pretty anxious. And usually a person cannot exactly put or sometimes they can't identify what is the source of anxiety. Sometimes it's very clear what the source is. But other times it's just this feeling, like you look around and think, well, what's going on? Why am I feeling so unsettled right now? But at times there's just this real feeling that there's a sense of threat to yourself, that something awful is going to happen. That there's this, you just feel like someone's come down, you don't know exactly what it is, but it feels very uneasy and kind of unnerving. Is anxiety contagious? Like you, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, say more on the contagion factor with anxiety.
If you're anxious already and somebody else is, like you feed off of it.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And or even if you're not anxious, if you walk into a room with, and everybody around you is anxious, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what is going on here, okay? All right. Anxiety itself, according to Pavlov, is a form of energy. While you cannot hear, see, taste, touch, smell, any of the senses, anxiety, you infer that anxiety is present, and we infer that it's present in terms of the physiological responses. And do you remember from AMP, what do you call those physiological responses? Physical responses when a person's really stressed. Fight or flight, yeah. And when you guys, when you took AMP, did you learn simply the fight and flight, or did you learn fight, flight, and freeze? They introduced freeze, just fight or flight. And that's how I learned it too, is fight and flight. But in the psych literature in the webinar, I'm always calling the webinar, it's really cool stuff actually. But they're always talking about fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is even a more primitive kind of response. And when you think about it, that can happen. That kind of almost kind of mobilization. Okay, I have some Fort Worth, but it's funny now. Nothing bad happened. But this weekend, our youngest daughter and her husband went to the football game and watched. Asked if we would watch 5-year-old kindergartner Macy and her 2.5-year-old younger brother. Okay, no problem. So Fred, we're taking him to the zoo. It was a beautiful day. Saturday morning, we got there first thing, and did our usually aquarium. Butterfly exhibit is not open at 9 o'clock. It's not open until 10. Okay. We did the aquarium, and then Maisie has been seeing the big desert dome. How it stands out. She said, "Grandma, we never go there. Can we go there?" I don't know if the alligators in the basement. So I said, "Well, we'll see." And then we're walking right by it. Please, Grandma, can we? Okay, fine, we'll go in there. All right. Well, so once we get in there, she's like, she's not rocking with a whole lot either. Which she said, her first thing was, it smells, and it does kind of smell and So we're trying to, kind of find our way out. She wants to leave, and Ethan kind of goes with the flow. As we're walking, I don't even know what we said. No grandmother, household. So now Ethan is right there. Macy's in the umbrella store because she's tired of walking. So I'm pushing her. Ethan's right there. Okay. Now, in fairness, the water was, there were kind of some rocks. I don't know if it was even swimming in there. Okay. All right. What kind of grandmother are you? So anyhow, yeah, so he falls into the water, and I swear to God, I did have a little bit of that, you know, like, oh my God, you know. I mean, you're like watching it in slow motion, you know. It's like, Fred, you know, so you know, Fred's way more agile than I am because I'm a much better swimmer than he is. Yeah, but I think you're not going to have to swim. The water's like, so anyhow, he's stumbling like this, and so I'm thinking, you know, and Fred's kind of doing slow-mo too. You know, he's ready to grab him, and then he's trying to right himself, and he does, he's underwater. Except he can blow bubbles in the bathtub. I do know that. And then Fred got him, and you know, he wasn't doing like that. You know, he was just, you know, crying and real upset. And Macy is freaking out. He could have drowned. I know. He could have drowned. But that is the freeze, kind of that fight. He could have drowned very much. Why don't they have fences so the 2-year-olds don't fall in there? I'm thinking, that's a good question, actually. You know, anyhow. So our day at the zoo was interrupted real quickly, and then everything, you know, I had to take his clothes. I mean, he was just soft and wet, you know, everything. But threw, you know, a jacket on him. Yeah, I'm not going to win grandmother either. I'll tell you the rest of the story. Okay. So yeah, okay. We're driving home, and Fred said, well, I was trying to figure out how I was going to get home, Marcy, in time to watch the kickoff at 11. I said, you didn't push me, did you? I knew that. He said, he kind of looked at it, he said, don't say that. Okay. Well, then there was the other incident this weekend where there was magic marker, or the Crayola markers. And he was drawing this really nice picture. And the next thing I knew, I mean, he was right in front of me. He's just a terror. He has orange like this on his forehead. Okay. All right. Soap and water do not get the orange off, even though it just smeared it. So we look like a pumpkin head. Okay. And so then I thought, oh crap. So I got.
Not magic eraser.
Yeah, you do.
Oh.
I did the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, gets it right off. But then it was.
Chemical word?
Well, it kind of looked like it was going to, you know, but I washed it immediately. I mean, I did the magic eraser, then I immediately washed it up with water and stuff. But then as the day went on, it kind of looked like, no, it's a chemical burn all over. Fred said, what happened to his forehead? It might be the Mr. Clean Dry Erase, you know. This was not good, you know. But Fred said, oh, let's put a little cortisone cream. My husband's a doctor. We'll put a little cortisone cream on it to see what happened. And it started fading, you know, by nighttime.
I only know because I do hair, and one of my color clients was like, I had a little stain, and I tried to take it off, and I used everything, and then I used a magic erase.
Yeah.
Don't do it because it will leave you with a big scab.
Oh, a big scab.
Like she was probably scrubbing pretty hard trying to get her evidence away.
Well,
but
he kept on pulling away, so I didn't have to.
Yeah. Wipe very hard, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, gee. I'm glad it was almost gone by the time Laura and Andy got back on time the next morning. Anyhow, okay, fight, flight, or freeze, okay, are the normal physiological responses. And what happens with the vital signs when somebody's in the fight or flight, and blood pressure does what?
For flight?
Fight and flight. Blood pressure is going to go up, pulse up, respiration's up, yeah. And the blood gets diverted away from the gut and intestines, okay, because it needs to go to vital organs. Yeah. All right. All right. Also, during this fight and flight kind of thing, when a person is anxious, there's going to be cognitive changes. What happens to your attention span as your anxiety level escalates?
Narrows.
It narrows, okay. And cognitively, some of their thinking is just a little bit fuzzy. Okay. Peplau talked about different degrees of anxiety. Like I said, she's the one that came up with the mild, moderate, severe versus panic levels of anxiety. Next to here, just say see handout. Oh, what is the name of the handout? What's the next one? See handouts 18, I think. Isn't the one right after 17? It's 18 for 17.
Yes. For like the levels of anxiety? It's 18.
Yeah, levels of anxiety. It's like what happened to you?
The table?
this?
You're 86.
Oh,
18.
yours didn't strike very well. What's wrong with that? Okay, well, let's see if I have the next one for you. You know, this is really just look at this right now, but then give it back to me, okay? All right. Okay, so we have those 4 levels of anxiety. I do want you to know the levels of anxiety, okay? I want you to know mild, moderate, severe, panic. Also, in terms of the levels of anxiety, we have perceptual changes that are consistent with each of these levels. Then we have the cognitive changes, the middle column. And then the far right column are the verbal and nonverbal behaviors that, oh good, you're filming it.
Well, Cherie's gone, so I
know,
thought for
I know, I
her,
feel
yeah,
horrible about it.
yeah, yeah.
They're not these bad words,
Yeah.
right? I'm a teacher. Okay. All right. All right. So we have these levels of anxiety. I do want you to read this handout, both sides, and know it really pretty well, okay? A very good NCLEX kind of question, okay, in terms of levels of anxiety and interventions. All right. And you can see that when you're looking at mild to moderate levels of anxiety, in terms of the far left column, what the person's able to take in through their senses, okay? If you have somebody that is, Ward master, that's what it is, okay. All right, if this is the normal person's, can you see this? If this is the normal, what the normal person is able to take in through their senses, visually, auditorily, and so on, okay? If somebody that is mildly anxious, what do you think? Are you able to take in even more? Are you, actually you are.
Oh, yeah, because your pupils dilate, right? So you
Yeah,
can
so
get more.
if you're mildly anxious, you're just kind of like, ooh, I really need to really cue in and pay attention. So the mildly anxious person is able to take in even more through each of their senses than in just the kind of normal relaxed state, okay? The moderately anxious person, perceptual, is going to be kind of like this. They're taking in less, so that's moderate level of anxiety, okay? But they're still able to focus and direct attention when directed to do so, okay? All right. Whereas the severely anxious person, you're seeing the perceptual field become that. Did I write tunnel vision in there? Tell me. Yeah. Okay. So the severely anxious person, their perceptual field is greatly restricted to the point that they really are tunnel visioned, okay? And the panic level of anxiety person's perceptual field is like a dot. That's it. So there is beyond tunnel vision. They're focusing on some kind of goofy minutia, like a piece of paper on the floor, on the carpet, okay? Or something that really is not important, okay? So perceptually, that's what happens. Then when we look cognitively, the ability to relearn and recall information, quietly look at the first 2 levels, mild and moderate, in terms of the ability to learn, and then tell me, answer my question, are you able to learn new information and problem solving when you're mild and moderately anxious? Yes. And the answer is yes, okay. Whereas then look at severe and panic level anxiety people. How about their ability to concentrate, to learn new information, to problem solve? It's out the window, okay? So what I want you to do, can I use this for 1 second? What I want you to do on this sheet right here on handout 18 is to draw a squiggly line right above severe level of anxiety. So we're dividing the chart in half. Where's the camera?
Look, Kim.
Yeah, well, okay. Here we go. We're dividing the chart exactly in half because interventions are going to be real different if the person's mildly or moderately anxious versus if they're severely or panic level anxiety stages, okay? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We'll get to that in the flip side in just a second. Okay. All right, and then when you see verbal and nonverbal behaviors, okay, with verbal and nonverbal behaviors, what does the mildly anxious person look like? Thoughts are what?
Logical.
Logical, organized, yeah. And the deal, here's the deal. When you come to class, especially when you were testing this, well, not actually on a daily basis, I want you to be mildly anxious when you get here. I want me to be mildly anxious when I'm teaching you. And my mild anxiety, I want it to be more than just the fact that I cannot get an internet connection this morning. Right? I want to be mildly anxious, not so overly scripted and prepared, so it sounds to you like, oh, she's done this for the last 24 years, blah, 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 blah. You know, I never want to be that way. That's why I change that every time I teach it, okay? All right. What's her name? Martha Graham, the famous dance choreographer kind of person or whatever, said that she always wanted her dancers to be mildly anxious because they're going to perform much better. Okay? I want you to be mildly anxious when you're testing because you're going to perform much better if you're mildly anxious. Okay? I want you to be mildly anxious when you come to class because you'll be spending the 2 hours in here much more productively where you're actively learning versus if you're kind of like, oh, it's a nice kind of fall day, just open the windows a little bit and just kind of snuggle up in sweatshirts and get all comfy, kind of like you have the comforter on at home, watching a TV show, you know, something kind of low-key. I don't want you to get too comfy and cozy in here, ever. Got it? And if you're looking way too relaxed or not engaged, then I'm going to do my best to say, what's going on or what can I do to pull you in? Because you're going to learn much better if you're actively engaged. Okay? The moderately anxious person, verbally and non-verbally, what's going on with them? Look at this sheet.
They have thought blocking, right? Moderate.
What did I write? Did I write thought blocking? Frequent change of subject, questioning, joking, thought blocking may occur. Okay. The speech a little bit faster, a little volume increase, shifting position, etc. Okay. I'm guessing that when you went for your first tour on the inpatient unit, and I'm just basing this on my years of having clinical groups, like 4 times 24 is what? That's how many clinical groups I have. And some schools do over 100 clinical groups. Anyhow, I'm guessing that there was some moderate level of anxiety when you think back on it. What did you notice either in yourself or your group as a whole? Don't point at any particular person, okay? But did you notice anything that was just moderate level of anxiety? Yeah? No? Yeah? In terms of wordiness or whatever? No, when I had clinical groups, once in a while, probably more often than not, I would give them a little bit of direction after morning report on the first real day when I had it, when we were going to be, when they were actually going to work with patients. And I found that the questions would increase. It was like, it's kind of, this is sort of like a stall there for a little bit. You know, we can keep her talking, you know, the pre-conference for long enough. Maybe we want to go out there or whatever. And you would see just kind of this anxiety level is what it was. That's what that's showing. Those behaviors are consistent with that level of anxiety. The severely anxious person, a lot of times will vocalize or verbalize. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like I'm going crazy here. You know, like something's real off. Okay, and they sense that something's really off. Okay, and they may engage in kind of purposeless activity. You know, they kind of find themselves doing stuff, you know, to try to calm their anxiety, but it just doesn't work and whole lot. The panic person, verbally or non-verbally, we say that this person is going to exhibit behaviors that may even suggest almost like a psychotic-like state. However, you know, I want to kind of tone that one down because the deal is probably everybody in this room has panicked at some time, and we were far from being psychotic when it happened, okay? So not to overplay that one. But, you know, if the person could actually start screaming or running around wildly, we might see that on the inpatient unit More likely than not, though, you're going to see more of the clinging behavior, wanting to get close to somebody that looks like they have their act together. Now, after Fred rescued Ethan from the swamp pool, containing God only knows what, he immediately snuggled up to, just like that, and as the day continued, I said, who is your superhero? Because they kept talking about the trauma that had occurred that day. And I said, who is your superhero today? And he says, Opa. They call him Opa. Opa's my superhero. I said, yeah, he rescued you. And you'll see that clingy, the kind of wanting to be with whoever looks like they have their act together. Okay. All right. Okay. Those are the behaviors. Then on the flip side of this handout, we actually have a cycle of events that lead to anxiety. Back of handout 18. Okay. And first of all, we have expectations that are held. Okay. I mean, all of us have expectations, whether they're verbalized or not. What life is supposed to be like, and so on. All right. Then, does your thing say TM on it? I don't know why, when it got typed one year, actually those are supposed to be arrows, okay? So everywhere it says, do a forward arrow where it says TM should be a forward arrow. So first of all, expectations are held. Then the next stage in the cycle is the presence of a threat, a perceived threat, loss, or a met expectation. So somehow the expectations are going to get interrupted or thwarted, okay? Which in turn leads to feelings of powerlessness and helplessness over the situation, internal feelings, which in turn leads to the development of anxiety, okay? But remember, anxiety is a form of energy, okay? It's not something that you can, touch or absolutely see, that you can infer its presence in terms of the things that we just talked about on the flip side of this handout, okay? And then there's two possibilities, two outcomes when a person's anxious. The first opportunity or outcome when a person's anxious is that the person's going to start exhibiting the backside of this. Right there, okay. With little a, is the person's going to demonstrate behavior that basically consists of problem-solving responses, and it's adaptive, and it's going to calm the anxiety, okay? The second possibility when a person's feeling really anxious, though, are behaviors B that do not lead anywhere, but are just bringing the person automatic relief for that period of time, okay? And the automatic relief behaviors will bring some automatic relief and will tone down the anxiety temporarily. But here's the deal. The B kind of behaviors are considered maladaptive. We don't want these to happen, okay? Because they're not productive. They're not going to resolve the underlying, at the top of the page, the underlying threat, loss, or unmet expectation. So circle threat, loss, and unmet expectation. Because that is what we really have to get at and address verbally with the person in order to make sense, in order to get on top of the anxiety, to confront it head on, if you will, okay? All right, so in terms of interventions, we have different nursing interventions if the person's at the mild and moderate level of anxiety, the top two, versus where you did the squiggly line, versus if they're at the severe panic level of anxiety. If they're at the mild or moderate, remember we said cognitively the person still can problem solve and communicate effectively, basically. Okay. So with the mild and moderate level, both of those levels, okay, you can engage in the problem solving, and you do that by, first of all, getting the patient, or the person, it doesn't have to be a patient, getting the person to recognize that indeed they are feeling anxious, okay? And then after, what I would say to the person clinically is, I would not say, are you feeling anxious? Because they expect a psych nurse to say, are you feeling anxious? And that for me, I don't know if it's the way I say it or what, but it's like a red flag with a bull if I say that. So I avoid saying that. I'm more likely to say, I've noticed, and I'll talk about what it is I'm seeing. I noticed that, you're busy sharpening a bunch of pencils and, kind of going through papers like you're trying to search for something, can't find something. There's something going on, or is something upsetting you. And usually, if I say, is something upsetting you, they'll, yeah, like, or in my case, I notice you've eaten the whole sleeve of a Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies in one sitting, okay? And like, I did when I was studying for comps. It's like I reached down, I was just studying like that, just like reached and was like, oh my God, I ate a whole box. I ate a whole box of cookies one day. It was terrible, okay? Anyhow, all right, anxiety, nervously, okay? So what is going on? Well, I'm afraid to feel calms. Okay. So what is going on? And then you problem solve. Well, what would happen if you were to fail comms? Well, I suppose I'd take them over again, Is life going to end if you fail comms? It's going to feel like it at the time. But truly, big scheme of things, is life going to end? The answer is no. I may be disappointed. My pride may be affected. I may be not wanting to tell my parents or my classmates if this happened, but life will go on. Okay? It's not going to be it. So that's what we do with mild and moderate. Our interventions, if the person is severely or severe or panic level of anxiety, are going to be basically the first course of action is to de-escalate the anxiety and get the anxiety under control so it's mild or moderate, because it has to be lessened in order for the talk therapy to work, for the problem solving to occur. Okay? So we do that by, first of all, intervening by, you may need to set limits. You may need to decrease the environmental stimuli if you have way too much stuff going on around you. On the inpatient unit, the staff may offer the patient PRN medication that is ordered for them, like an anti-anxiety med, or if their anxiety is because they're not processing things correctly, and because of the psychosis, they may offer them PRN and a psychotic med. So basically, we're trying to tone down the anxiety, or actually lift it up, so it's lessen it. Okay? With panic level of anxiety, we talked about anxiety being interpersonally communicated. Therefore, you, the nurse, are needing to kind of step back. It's like, think mentally, step back and breathe. You absolutely need to take a deep breath and make sure you remain calm, because you're not going to be of any use or service to anybody else if you're kind of flitting around the unit, like, you're like, kind of like, I'm really out of control myself. Or I'm really so anxious, how am I going to do with myself? You don't want a nurse like that. And you want to be taken care of a nurse, by the nurse like that. Okay, so, at least you may be shaken inside, but learn to have the non-reactive, I'm calm, I'm in control, I can help you. As an EMS, what do they teach you in terms of, let's say you come to
Medicate.
To what? Medicate.
Medicate.
Oh, medicate.
Someone's severely threatened.
No, I'm talking about yourself. As a
Oh,
staff member.
gosh, yeah.
Don't.
I thought you were talking about you as a nurse
I
if
could
you're
use a
caring
little
for.
IV here.
I thought you meant you as a nurse if you're caring for someone
No.
to step back and take a deep breath. Okay.
No, I am talking about you, the nurse, or the
Oh,
healthy
yeah.
person. What do you do? What do you find useful when you're thinking like, oh my God?
Yeah, like what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have that reaction.
Yeah,
Because we all do. That's the human.
Yeah.
That's the human part.
I think in EMS it's easier to focus on the initial problem versus the whole scenario in general. Like if it's a multi-car accident and you have people everywhere, if you just decide this is what I can do and this is who I can help,
Yeah.
and you go to that one situation.
So stay focused.
Yes, absolutely.
Focused.
Yep. Deep breath.
And do something.
Gloves on, double
that
gloves,
rather
and
than
head out.
kinda
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
freeze.
And there's always those people that you can look to, that always
Yeah.
stay calm in those situations.
Yeah, yeah.
Follow their
They'll
lead
scan
and
the group and figure
Mhm.
out who looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They'll give you
Yeah.
chores.
Yeah. Yeah. After I have a 24-year-old niece who was killed 4 years ago in a car accident in the city. She had donated her organs so they keep you alive another 24 hours before they harvest the organs and stuff. But I'm the oldest among the kids. There were a lot of people around. And her mother comes from not as large a family, but there were a lot of people. and this is such a sudden tragic thing. But I know that's exactly what the staff were doing. They were looking around because they decided that I was the right person for both sides of the family. And just, what do you need? You need a room right now to figure out. We just need a room. Can we have the nurses station? Yeah, absolutely. We do this.
Yeah.
But the nurses come at the station, the nurses conference room. We need to get the family together. We need to be calm. We need to get a priest. But they do, I'm thinking, I've really fooled you guys. You think I have my act together. I really don't. But I can pretend. I can pretend like I'm really calm and methodical. And maybe we'll scope that out. All right. What are we talking about? This is almost this is a handout. All right. Focus, Marcy. Okay. All right. With panic level of anxiety too, we need to physically stay with the person. Don't touch him, if at all possible, unless they're flailing and you have to protect them from harming themselves. But you want to physically stay close by and just your sheer presence. Somebody that's panicky is going to gravitate towards another human being, Stephanie, that looks like they have their act together. Even if you might be shaking kind of inside yourself, but if you're looking calm, okay, and have that practice kind of calmness, they're going to be with you. And then you'll say to the person that's panicky, no more than 4 words at a time, because they can't comprehend more than 4 words. So things like, come with me, okay? Or sit here, or drink this water. Again, the creature comfort consequence. Offer some water. People are dry mouthed anyhow. Do something like that, okay? It says we may need to medicate, and on the inpatient units, if somebody's panicky, sometimes we will offer like a PRN, anti-anxiety med. In terms of physically controlling, that is like the last resort, and the only time you will physically control a patient if you're the psych nurse or the EMS, is if they're going to hurt, they're so out of control, they're hurting themselves or other people, they're endangering if safety is the issue. But in general, that's very rare. Okay. I'm done with this. I can grab the back. Okay. All right. So we have the levels of anxiety. You know what to do in terms of handout 18. Okay. You need this background information in order to figure out now the anxiety disorders. The second slide basically is more of the handout 18, both sides of handout 18 that we just covered. Okay. All right, now for the specific anxiety disorders. Okay. We have panic anxiety, panic disorder. So this is the umbrella. The diagnostic chapter basically is about anxiety disorders. The first of under the anxiety disorder umbrella is panic disorder. Then we also have agoraphobia, another diagnosis, social anxiety disorder, specific phobias, generalized anxiety disorder, and separation anxiety disorder. Those are the big ones in the anxiety disorder chapter. Let me look at your notes for 1 second. Okay, so some specifics about each of these. In terms of panic disorder, by definition, panic disorder is characterized by recurrent, unpredictable anxiety attacks. Recurrent, unpredictable anxiety attacks or panic attacks. And because of the unpredictable nature, like they just kind of come out of nowhere, or they can feel like they come out of nowhere, after a person has experienced their first panic attack, then by definition, you're kind of waiting, and you just kind of, you begin almost to limit as to where you go and what you do, because you're so afraid that it's going to happen again, and you're really afraid that you might have a panic attack and help may not be available. You might be in remote Nebraska or something like that, okay? Where you're afraid that, you have this persistent concern you're going to have another attack, and you're wondering what's going to happen to you when that happens. Physiologically, what does a panic attack look like? What do you know about panic attacks? What med-surg condition does a panic attack mimic? What does that look like? Yes. Chest.
MI.
Looks like a cardiac, like you're having a heart attack, okay? And it feels, and the symptoms are pretty much identical to a heart attack, okay? So what are some of the symptoms of a heart attack? Because these are the same as a panic attack.
Heavy chest.
Heavy
like
chest,
something sitting
yeah.
on the chest.
Can't breathe, shortness of breath, yeah. What else? What else happens when a person's having a heart attack?
If their anxiety is raised, you get kind of almost
Can't
twitchy,
sit still.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't sit still.
Yeah. That will happen too. A lot of times people feel kind of faint, and kind of dizzy and faint, because they're probably so anxious that they're hyperventilating. Right? They're forgetting to take deep breaths. And, when they're kind of that hyperventilation mode, a lot of times they have this kind of choking or smothering sensation. They're like, I'm having trouble getting my breath. Hot or cold flashes, sweating, clammy kind of stuff, all those things. Okay? The reality is the panic attack feels like it's a life-threatening situation to the person experiencing it. So that individual may be inclined to either call 911 him or herself, or they may express to someone else, like, I think I'm having a heart attack. The first time it happens, you do, when you don't know you have a panic disorder, you do think you're having a heart attack, and you know what? You better be getting yourself to an ER and get medically evaluated before you say, oh, I think I'm just having anxiety. The first time, you want to rule out, make sure it is not indeed a heart attack or even coronary. Once the tests have been done in the ER, everything has been ruled out, and you're cleared to go home or whatever, the doctor will say, all the tests are coming back negative. We think that you just experienced, a really pretty intense panic attack. Here's those Xanax, we'll give you a little Xanax before you leave. Follow up with your doctor. Okay. All right. But rule of thumb, always rule out a heart attack first before you start assuming that it's just, this is panic, the person's panicking. Phobias. A phobia, by definition, is a persistent, irrational fear. A persistent, irrational fear that gets attached to an object or situation that is objectively not a significant danger, but try to convince somebody that it is phobic about something, that the rattlesnakes in the desert dome, even though they're in a glass case, can we get out, Grandma? Okay, so I was not sure. No, honey, they really can't. Let's get out here fast. Okay. All right. In terms of phobias, okay. Under phobias, we have agoraphobia, which is a specific kind of phobia, which involves fear of being in a place or situation that you can't escape. Fear of being in a place or situation you can't escape. And according to I like this DSM-5 diagnostic criteria, they say that in order to make the diagnosis of agoraphobia, the person has to have two or more of these fears of these situations. The first criteria, fear of using public transportation, such as in a car, bus, train, airplane, ship. That doesn't make sense. The second criteria, another possibility, is fear of being in an open place, like in a marketplace, on a bridge, or in a parking lot. That's interesting. I didn't know that. The third criteria is fear of being in an enclosed place, like a theater, or a shop, like a store, or like a crowded church, like in Christmas Eve. Or 4, fear of standing in line or being in a crowd. Yes, there's like people around you. 5th, fear of being outside of your home alone. Okay. And you don't have to have all those, but usually two or more in order to make the diagnosis. As you can imagine, like in the early phases of agoraphobia, the person can usually is aware that they're afraid, is getting more and more uncomfortable to leave the home, you know, it's harder each day to kind of get to work or go to school, wherever they need to be. But usually, you know, in the early stages, they can kind of gut it out, you know, they find that, okay, if I throw a little vodka in my orange juice, I have a little liquid courage, the alcohol, they think will get them going. And sometimes it does, but in the long run, alcohol is one of the worst things to take if you have an anxiety disorder. Things you should refrain from if you have anxiety disorders. You should refrain from alcohol, sugar, and there's one more thing, sugar, caffeine. Okay? Those are some of the worst things. Those are pretty worst things to do. All right, but anyhow, they may find a little liquid courage gets them going, okay? But then if things progress, the agoraphobia can get to the point where they can no longer leave the house, and that'd be a very severe form of
That's
agoraphobia.
absolutely my neighbor.
You can't leave the house.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then you have to be dependent on someone else to, you know, like who's going to support you. You know, you can't go to work unless you have an online job or something like that, where you can work from home. But typically, you know, think of, you know, a person getting to the point where they can't leave the house. If they become housebound, someone's going to have to work to provide food, clothing, shelter for them. Someone's going to go to the grocery store, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And then along with that, co-occurring disorders that coincide with agoraphobia is a lot of times the person will become clinically depressed. You know, you're depressed because your life is that impacted by the agoraphobia. So that's common. That's a common correlate with agoraphobia. The other thing we commonly see, not always, but commonly see with agoraphobia is becoming chemically dependent, you know, drinking, usually it's alcohol, where the person starts kind of drinking to kind of self-medicate. In fact, it's not uncommon to discover underlying agoraphobia in the course of chemical dependency treatment. Okay? If the alcohol is going to be point, you know, maybe the person is, you know, buying the groceries and stuff, saying, you know, you're going through a lot of whiskey, a lot of vodka, or whatever, a lot of wine. This is getting out of control. You know, and the person may say, yeah, you're right, it really is. So then sometimes they will go for treatment and then want to discover underlying agoraphobia because it's really hard in the hospital itself. Okay, so that's agoraphobia. Then we have social anxiety disorder, also referred to as social phobia, which involves fear of social or performance situations. Fear of social or performance situations, where the person is afraid of kind of embarrassing themselves, making a fool of themselves in front of an audience or in front of other people. Okay. The common examples of social phobias or social anxiety disorder are manifested in terms of fear of public speaking, fear of getting in front of a room and speaking to other people. Also, other kinds of social phobia examples include fear of eating like in a restaurant or eating in front of other people. And then there's another one, fear of using a public restroom. I'm not talking about, you know, smelly porta pots or like that. Just public, you can clean public restrooms. Just a little phobia about that. Okay. Then we have specific phobias. And if you actually Google phobias or specific phobias, you probably come up with a list of about 100 different phobias that have actual names, like claustrophobia with small spaces, arachnophobia. What's arachnophobia? Spiders. Yeah, and Halloween. Acrophobia. Heights. Yeah. And there, you know, there's a bunch of them. You know, there's fear of blood, fear of snakes, fear of furry animals. Fear of the number 13. You notice a lot of high-rise hotels don't have the 13th floor. So they go from like 12 to 14.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah. Okay, and so there must be enough people that have that one. I don't know. Even the cause of phobias is not exactly known, but behavioralists think in terms of the specific phobias, they think that the fear may be learned. If the little one, the child, observes like mom's fear, it may become a learned behavior. Did that ring a bell for you?
Well, I'm just laughing because I got a text this morning of a clown from a friend that said I watch you sleep because I have an extreme fear of clowns. So I'm just laughing.
Yeah.
And mine was from a movie.
All right. So you got the idea. Then we have something called generalized anxiety disorder, which is characterized by excessive anxiety or worry about a number of events and activities. And from week to week, the focus of the anxiety is going to change. And there's some of us that are just wired this way. This week, or last week, was maybe worry about studying for the test. This week, it might be, worrying about getting the kids outfitted for Halloween, and the right costumes, and not running out of candy. Then the next week, it might be needing to start Christmas shopping and wondering where the money is going to come from, or the time even to get the presents. And then after the first of the year, then the worry might be about getting paperwork in order to take things to the tax accountant, get your taxes, or file your taxes. And then the next week, it might be about, it goes on and on. How many of you are kind of the designated worriers in your family? You're wired that way. Raise your hand real high. Don't own it. If it's yours, own it. Okay? We have about half the room as designated worriers. How many of you are truly, we've talked about this before, how many of you are truly the go with the flow? We should believe more that God will provide. I do know He does, but okay. There's that lack of trust sometimes. Okay. How many of you are the wired, the kind of go with the flow? Just kind of, it is what it is, and any of you, besides, there were two of you the last time. Was it you and April? I was trying to gravitate to figure out who the people were. Who were the people? That was you. All right. If you raised your hand as a designated worrier, I do have a recommendation in life for you, those of you that are not married. Try to find someone to marry, or a spouse, or significant other that is your anchor. It kind of is more the go.
Knock it off.
What's that?
Poof! Knock it off.
Yeah. So it's just like, this is not that important. It really isn't. Because here's the deal. If you find somebody that is just like you, you're going to drive each other nuts, with your worry. Does that make sense? Okay. That was just kind of my offhand. At 41 years of marriage, I think I can tell you that. All right. That generalized anxiety disorder. Okay. And somebody that has GAD, you can get to the point, you can work yourself into such a wad that you're going to start having trouble sleeping at night because the brain just is not turning off, and there, you may even find periods where you find yourself kind of waking up like the 3 a.m. awakenings. And again, that brain is like, I'm supposed to be asleep. I'm thinking about, did I do this? Did I do this right? Or, it's that niggly little monkey brain kind of conversation that occurs. Okay. And if you get to the point, or if you go through periods of time where you're having difficulty sleeping, then you're going to be kind of, tired, kind of restless during the day, and then during the waking hours, your concentration may not be quite where it needs to be. And you may become in that semi-sleep deprived state, a little bit more irritable. And do you ever recognize that in yourself, where it's kind of like, I know I'm feeling kind of irritable today. I better just bite with my tongue excessively because I know I'm ready just to say something. And then once the words are out, my words may hurt somebody. I may say something that's not kind, and I'll have to go to confession about it. Or I'll live to regret it. Not regret it, but you know what I'm saying? And we all know when we're kind of there, or usually if you have any self-awareness or not, you recognize that. Also, in this generalized anxiety state, it can get to the point where you're kind of in this hyper-aroused, hyper-vigilant state. And I'll tell you, how do you know you're in this kind of hyper-aroused, hyper-vigilant, just kind of watching, scanning your environment really closely. Well, you can tell that if all of a sudden you hear a loud noise, or maybe the phone rings, you kind of jump and think, oh my gosh, I've had way too much caffeine today, or way too much of the energy drinks, or, to stay awake. Where you feel like you're just kind of a little bit on pins and needles, and if you kind of have a exaggerated startle response or arousal response, then you're kind of hitting these like that. I don't want to embarrass myself. Well, that's like what generalized anxiety disorder. Now, there's something called separation anxiety disorder, which involves excessive fear or anxiety concerning being separated from home or separated from attachment figures like parents. Okay? And typically we'll see that, starting when a child is little, like when they're going to school, where they just, it's more than just like being bummed that they're not going to see their mom. A lot of times it's like, it becomes like, major crying. I don't want to go to school. My tummy hurts, and the child really can get very, very nervous and upset. Or, maybe your mom says, oh, honey, you really do need to go to school. They get you there. And then all of a sudden you're throwing up your breakfast, not because you have the stomach flu on bed, but just because you're so nervous. And so then you end up going to the school nurse, calling mom has to come pick you up. Okay? That's the basic picture of separation anxiety disorder. There's also anxiety due to another medical condition, such as hyperthyroidism, if the thyroid's out of whack. The person can look like they have an anxiety disorder. If the person has diabetic, or just even a normal person, then develops low blood sugar, in the hypoglycemia state, they can look pretty anxious and feel pretty anxious. And if they have other medical conditions, feel an adrenaline secreting kind of tumor or whatever. Let's take a break. And when we get back, we'll talk about other disorders with an anxiety component. These are